Coming up on tonight's edition of News Center. Korea's main rival parties take another attempt at reaching an agreement on redrawing the nation's electoral map, among other things. South Korea and the U.S. are set to hold joint military exercises this week aimed at deterring North Korea's nuclear and WMD threats. And the biggest mobile phone show of the year kicks off in Barcelona. Major new gadgets are unveiled and smartphones fight for relevance in an all-mobile world. News Center begins right now. It is 8 a.m. in New York, 12 noon in London, and 10 on a Monday night here in Seoul. Hello and welcome to our viewers all across the globe. You're watching Arirang News Center. Now we start things off in Korea's National Assembly, where lawmakers have convened a last-minute meeting. They're trying to hammer out an agreement on redrawing the electoral map ahead of the upcoming general election in April, along with other key pending bills that's been stuck in Parliament for weeks and months now. Live on the line is our very own Oh Soo-young. She's been following developments in Parliament all throughout the day. Soo-young, the rival parties took a aim at meeting halfway in regards to the pending legislations, which of course includes an anti-terrorism bill and a bill on redrawing electoral districts in vain. Once earlier this morning and another earlier this afternoon, and this is their third attempt of the day.
Kon-young, it looks like it's going to be a long night at the National Assembly. Just an hour ago, the leaders of Korea's main rival parties began their third round of discussions today. Lawmakers are determined to finalise talks on redrawing a new electoral map ahead of the general elections in April. Over the past weeks, the rival camps have agreed to expand regional constituencies by 7 seats and reduce proportional seats to 47. However, they are still at odds over the fine details of the proportional representation system. Considering the strong push they're putting in tonight, the parties could be on the verge of locking down an agreement on the matter. And it's crucial that they do so before the bill goes to a vote at a plenary session on Tuesday. And the worst-case scenario, if the new electoral map fails to pass, the general election may have to be postponed.
Of course, that's something that's never happened in the constitutional history of this country, but things are getting down to the wire, it seems. Now, Soo-young, aside from the electoral district bill, what other issues are on the table?
Well, the ruling Saenuri Party is eager to pass the anti-terrorism bill and another on improving North Korea's human rights. Ruling party lawmakers want to establish a counter-terrorism body under the National Intelligence Service to bolster security against potential attacks from North Korea. But the main opposition party, the Minju Party of Korea, fears that increasing the spy agency's authority may lead to its abuse of power while carrying out surveillance operations. Instead, the opposition has insisted all day that the Ministry of Public Safety and Security head any terrorism-related surveillance. National Assembly Speaker Chung Lee-hwa said earlier today that if bipartisan talks are once again stalled, he may exercise his authority to put the Anti-Terrorism Act to a vote. But whether concessions will be made on this or any of the other bills tonight, we'll have to wait and see. Kon-young.
And you will keep us updated throughout the night, Soo-young?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Soo-young. That was our Oh Soo-young on the ongoing struggle by the two main political parties of this country to reach a critical agreement tonight. Now, shifting our focus to the nation's top office, President Park Geun-hye has once again highlighted national security and economic conditions. During our senior secretaries meeting earlier this Monday, the president stressed that national security and public safety must be ensured in the face of rising terror threats from North Korea, and called for measures to insulate the Korean economy from worsening external factors. Our Song Ji-sun files this report from the nation's presidential office of Cheongwade.
Noting the rising terror threats from North Korea, President Park Geun-hye called on our senior secretaries to do their best for the nation's security and to guarantee the safety of the people.
현재의 엄중한 상황 하에서 국가 안보를 최우선으로 하면서 국민이 안심하고 생업에 종사할 수 있도록 비상한 각오로 업무에 만전을 기해 주기를 바랍니다.
Regarding last month's exports, which dropped by the fastest pace in 6 years, Park said external economic conditions are worse than expected, citing the slowdown in China and in other emerging economies. Saying that the recent fluctuations in global financial markets, coupled with the North Korean factor, could weigh on the South Korean economy, she stressed that reform drives must be continued to revitalize the economy.
지금은 당초 예상했던 것보다 훨씬 대외 경제 여건이 어려워진 상황입니다. 중국 경제 침체가 계속되고 있고 신흥국과 자원 부국들의 경제 불안이 커지고 있으며 세계 증시도 크게 흔들리고 있습니다. 가뜩이나 어려운 상황에 북한 핵실험과 미사일 도발로 고조된 한반도 긴장이 경제에 더 큰 부담으로 작용할 수 있습니다. 이럴 때일수록 우리 경제의 활력 제고와 구조개혁 성과 가시화를 더욱 적극적으로 추진해야 할 것입니다.
Following up on last week's investment promotion meeting, she reiterated that aside from regulations that are absolutely necessary, all should be lifted to ensure they do not hamper new growth engines. 송지선, 아리랑 뉴스.
South Korea and the U.S. have made clear that talks on North Korea's denuclearization must come first before starting any dialogue. This united stance comes after an American news media reported that Washington had agreed to Pyongyang's proposal for talks to formally end the Korean War without the North having to take steps to curtail its nuclear arsenal. Connie Kim has the details.
South Korea has sent a clear message that it should be at the center of establishing a peace treaty with North Korea. This is in response to a report that the U.S. secretly agreed to hold talks with the North on formally ending the Korean War. According to the story published Sunday by the Wall Street Journal, Washington had dropped its preconditions that Pyongyang must take steps to denuclearize in order to hold talks, instead calling for its nuclear weapons program to be part of the discussion.
The peace treaty is not an issue between the US and North Korea. South Korea should be leading discussions on this issue.
Pyongyang has long been seeking a peace treaty with Washington and to stop South Korea-US joint military drills, which it views as a threat to the regime. U.S. State Department spokesman John Kirby clarified it was North Korea that first proposed peace talks and that Washington's response was in line with goals to denuclearize the North, which Pyongyang rejected. A South Korean government official also added that punishing Pyongyang for its nuclear test and long-range ballistic missile test is of utmost priority for Seoul and Washington. This is why some officials say it's taking the UN Security Council so long to come up with its strongest sanctions yet on North Korea for its latest provocations. Seoul says they're in the final stages of drafting the resolution, which could be announced as early as this week. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
South Korea and the U.S. will hold a joint military drills in California this week to enhance the allies' combined deterrence capabilities against Pyongyang's nuclear threats and potential weapons of mass destruction. Now, it's an annual defense exercise between the two countries, but holds greater importance this year as it comes on the heels of North Korea's latest nuclear threat. Our national defense correspondent Kim Hyun-bin.
South Korea's defense ministry announced that the Allies' annual tabletop exercise, led by the Deterrence Strategy Committee, are set to start Wednesday at the Vandenberg Air Force Base in the U.S.
The extended deterrence exercise will focus on North Korea's nuclear and missile threats and evaluate political and military risks they may pose, as well as ways to better counter them.
The ministry explained on Monday that actual combat scenarios will be carried out over the course of 3 days. Some 40 defense and foreign affairs officials from both countries are also slated to take part in the discussion-based exercise. Deputy Minister for National Defense Policy, Ryu Jae-sung, is heading the South Korean side. The U.S. will be co-led by Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Nuclear and Missile Defense Policy, Elaine Bunn, and Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for East Asia, Abraham Denmark. The two allies are also scheduled to conduct on-site inspections of U.S. extended deterrence military assets. This year's exercise will be the fifth of its kind since the Extended Deterrence Policy Committee was established in 2011. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Korea's finance chief met with the international media today to discuss the current conditions of the Korean economy as well as further policy direction. Well, according to Seoul's top economy-related policymaker, North Korean issues will not have or will have limited impact on the local economy. And on top of that, the country's strong economic fundamentals should help counter external risks. Our Kim Min-ji has this report.
South Korea's finance minister says North Korean issues will have a limited impact on the country's economy. Speaking at a press conference with foreign correspondents to Seoul on Monday, Minister Yoo Il-ho said that the government is closely monitoring the situation to minimize any possible effects. Regarding the possible deployment of the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, or THAAD, Yoo said the move will not impact South Korea's economic cooperation with China, its biggest trading partner. Beijing has been opposed to the move, calling on Seoul and Washington to withdraw the deployment plan. The minister stressed that the issue is a political one and thus will not have a big impact on the economic front. Noting uncertainties at home and abroad, Yoo said the country will make all-out efforts to adopt effective market-friendly policies. The minister, however, cited Korea's strong economic fundamentals, highlighting how it achieved firm growth in relative terms compared to other countries and possesses the capability to counter external risks thanks to ample foreign reserves and current account surplus. Yoo said the government will maintain expansionary financial policies while continuing to focus on boosting investment, creating new jobs, and implementing new strategies to expand exports in current economic conditions. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye enters her fourth year in office this week, and we'd like to shed light on how the president fared in her third year in office and the year ahead with a week-long special series. We start with the economy. Hwang Ji-hae takes a look at the Park administration's main achievements so far and the challenges ahead.
Despite sluggish global demand that dragged down the country's traditional growth engine exports, the Korean economy last year managed to post the third fastest growth rate among some of the world's largest economies, with populations of over 20 million and per capita national incomes that exceed $20,000. This expansion was led by domestic demand on the back of the administration's aggressive stimulus measures that also included an extra budget. While expansionary policies could have threatened Korea's fiscal soundness, the country posted a budget surplus in 2015 for the first time in 4 years. Major economic institutions like the International Monetary Fund have placed Korea high on the ranks of fiscal health, and Moody's Investors Service cited this as one of the major reasons behind its decision late last year to upgrade the country's credit rating by one notch to AA2. It's the first time the country has received the third highest ranking by a major rating company. The government also focused on breathing new life into the economy by laying out measures to nurture more startups, cut excessive red tape, and expand the country's free trade market. 3 FTAs, including one with China, went into effect last year, putting Korea's free trade market size at the world's third largest, covering over 70% of the global economy. Now, the real task facing President Park Geun-hye's economic team is pushing through structural reforms to tackle longer-term issues like the aging population to raise the country's growth potential. In fact, Korea did make some progress in reforming the public sector last year by revising the civil servants' pension system. Still, experts say there's a long way to go.
Public pension reform and measures to improve efficiency at public corporations were positive steps, but the government has faced criticism as the changes have not really boosted productivity.
Experts add that cooperation from the National Assembly is critical as a number of reform bills are held up at the parliament amid a protracted political standoff between rival parties. They say the government should also ensure parties affected by the reforms have a full understanding of the importance of those changes. And the task of reform is not the only issue the Park administration faces.
The massive amount of household debt in Korea is a big burden. People are choosing to save money instead of spending.
Debt risks stemming from the corporate sector are also a sticking point. Experts say corporate restructuring should take place as planned by the government. They say that while concerns about job loss and its effects on growth should be noted, further delay, as seen in previous administrations, could turn the problem into an even bigger crisis. 황지혜, 아리랑 뉴스.
The Shimane Prefecture of Japan has celebrated February 22nd as Takeshima Day. The Takeshima is how Japan calls Korea's easternmost Dokdo Island. The rocky island is one of the most significant areas of tension between the two countries since the era of Japanese colonial rule, and not only for territorial or resource rights, but national pride as well. Our Kwon Jang-ho files this report.
Fights broke out between Japanese nationalists and pro-South Korean activists on the streets in the Shimane Prefecture of Japan as the district took part in Takeshima Day, an event that aims to support Japan's territorial claim over the South Korean island of Dokdo. The celebration has sparked controversy since it began in 2005, but disputes have intensified over the past 4 years, with the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe effectively giving it his seal of approval by sending government representatives every year. This year was no exception, with a Japanese parliamentary vice minister and 14 lawmakers joining hundreds at a special ceremony.
From a historical viewpoint or under international law, Takeshima is obviously Japanese territory. Solving the Takeshima problem is an important issue that affects our sovereignty.
In Korea, the foreign ministry was quick to respond in kind.
Historically, geographically, and under international law, Dokdo is clearly our rightful territory. We demand that the Japanese government stop its provocations and humbly face up to its history of aggression and imperialism.
Seoul also called in a Japanese embassy diplomat to formally deliver a message of protest. Although details of the meeting were kept under wraps, the minister's appearance was not. Civic groups also took to the streets in South Korea to denounce Takeshima Day celebrations. They expressed their anger by destroying Japanese history books that claim the island as Japanese territory.
The Japanese government clearly knows that Dokdo is Korean territory. They should stop making such futile attempts to distort history, acknowledge Dokdo as South Korea's territory, and know that the South Korean people will continue to protect it.
It had been hoped that a landmark agreement between the two nations in December over the issue of Japan's wartime military sex slavery would lead to better relations. But with the Abe administration continuing to spark controversy on both issues, hostility remains. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
The biggest mobile show of the year and one of the largest tech events in the world, the Mobile World Congress, kicked off in Barcelona, Spain on this Monday. Now, around 100,000 visitors and some 2,500 IT companies from around the world are expected to take part in this 4-day event held under the theme Mobile is Everything. Now, this year's MWC has put the spotlight on VR devices, 5th generation LTE connectivity, and the Internet of Things, where every device is connected through the World Wide Web. And this is also where the biggest names in the tech world unveil their newest cutting-edge smartphones and tablets. Korea's Samsung and LG Electronics are no exception. Our Kim Ji-yeon gives us a glimpse of the Galaxy S7 and the LG G5 and a new global alliance that came out public in Barcelona.
Korea's leading smartphone maker Samsung Electronics and its local rival LG Electronics released their new flagship smartphones in Barcelona, Spain, which is hosting one of the biggest tech events, the Mobile World Congress, this week. Samsung's Galaxy S7 has a 5.1-inch screen with a curved glass back. The S7 Edge is curved at the left and right-hand edges, and the curved designs are what the company says makes them more comfortable to use with one hand.
Now, we usually use our phones with only one hand, but that can be challenging with a larger screen. So we rethought the design of the Edge to make it easier to use when you only have one thumb to spare. Just slide your thumb across the Edge, and the Edge panel glides onto the display. The wider panel allows for richer content, and it's easier to read.
Samsung Electronics also brought back some of the popular designs and features of its previous S6 model. They include a micro SD card slot, which enables users to expand storage without compromising the slim exterior. The phone can also stay submerged for 30 minutes in water, 1.5 meters deep, and still work just fine. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg made a surprise appearance at the Samsung event to announce that the two companies teamed up for a virtual reality phone project to push VR in mobile phones and social networking.
Now today, thanks to this partnership between Samsung and Facebook, this is now possible, and that day is here. And it wouldn't be possible to deliver this experience at this scale and this price without Samsung's experience and excellence in hardware and systems, and all of Facebook's experience delivering software, and of course with Oculus technology.
While Samsung is improving its gadgets by mixing traditional and modern features, LG's new G5 smartphone brings in a whole new user paradigm. When the battery tray is removed, the slot can accept a variety of modules, including ones that provide enhanced camera controls, boost sound quality, and control drones.
The LG G5 is not the only device we'd like to introduce today. It comes with friends, extensive companion devices that enhance the user experience in dynamic ways. We'll introduce more friends, creating a new paradigm in smartphone ecosystems called LG Playground.
LG Electronics will start selling their new gadgets sometime next month. Samsung Electronics will begin global sales of the Galaxy S7 on March 11th. Kim Jeon, Arirang News, Barcelona.
Around this time 2 years later, Korea will be hosting the 2018 Winter Olympic Games in the alpine town of PyeongChang, nearby Pogwang and Cheongsan. Now, with 2 years to go, the organizing committee has shifted from the preparation phase to operational, which also means the start of more than 24 test events. Not only do these global competitions serve as an opportunity to check up on facility qualifications, they're also a perfect way to drum up Olympic fever leading up to the Games and promote various winter sports that may not be too familiar to the local public. This is part 3 of my 4-part series. This ski resort, surrounded by nature 700 meters above sea level in Pogwang, eastern Korea, is one of the largest and the most popular snow parks in the country. The Pogwang Phoenix Park recently got a new addition, a slope-style course exclusively built for the 2018 Winter Olympics, as this will be the venue for freestyle snow events during the PyeongChang Games. The official Olympic freestyle skiing and snowboarding test events are taking place here, with the first FIS Freestyle and Cross World Cup, bringing together world-class athletes and officials, over 560 from 31 different countries. Not only that, it's a debut for a slopestyle in Korea. With athletes flipping, twisting, and bumping their way into the hearts of people, freestyle snow events are spectator-friendly. The crowd gets drawn to the athletic prowess. The athletes use the crowd's energy to pull off incredible skills, and the crowd gets pumped by the music.
This is my first time ever seeing this in real life. It's very exciting. It's amazing.
I'm a winter sports fanatic, so I've been looking for such opportunities.
It's first time for us to watch this event in Korea, and even it's a learning opportunity for us to see the event and learn and see how they are doing the things. It's really exciting.
And the response from the riders and observers around the world has been extremely positive in regards to the quality of the Cheniere stern-built 3-jump, 3-rail slopestyle course.
The course is amazing, and Yeah, it's just cool to have a course that's a little bit different. You know, it's a lot different than the other courses that we've had. There's little options that we've never had before, so it was really fun to try something new, and I think we were all just pretty stoked to be skiing out here.
The course was way different from all the other courses we ride. It felt good to express your skiing in a different way. And yeah, the weather's been good, the course is fun, and everyone's happy.
The designers of the course are also here at the test event to make sure their new creation is well prepared for future international competitions as well.
And working with the FIS, the most important things of designing the course from our perspective, also from the perspective of the final snow designers, is that the course needs to be challenging and fun for the athletes so that the athletes can put on a great show for the World Cup and for the Olympics. And also it has to be safe too. So it's a real balance between making it very exciting and very safe.
To hype up the athletes and the crowd, behind the turntables is DJ Koo, a longtime K-pop singer and one of the best-known DJ figures in this country. He's been tapped the music director of the 2016 FIS Freestyle and Cross events.
My music selection here is very different from when DJing at a club. For instance, athlete performance comes first, so I try to play music accordingly. Today, I selected groovy songs that would amplify athletes' jumps and tricks. For the more speedy events next week, I'll be playing very fast tunes.
Local supporter groups of winter sports are also hard at work to put their 2 cents worth in drumming up Olympic fever. Literally.
We're doing our best to promote the 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympics and stimulate the development of winter sports.
I'm really happy how many people that showed up to watch us. It really made us pumped, and I think it made us perform better. And then my time here in Korea has been really great. I'm happy how the course is built, that it's so creative and you can really see the skiing progress on it. And hopefully this is what it's going to look like in the future as well.
The most important factor in building excitement for the Olympics is to create public interest. By hosting these kind of test events, we want to let the Korean people know that the 2018 Winter Games are just around the corner and introduce these winter sports to the public.
Key to hosting a successful Olympic Games includes public engagement, interest, and support both at home and abroad. Now, the next 2 years will be time to do just that for PyeongChang and for Korea, to build up the energy and keep pumping it up for various winter sports. Bombings claimed by the Islamic State killed scores in 2 Syrian cities as world powers appear very close to brokering a ceasefire in the country's civil war. Bruce Harrison is live in the studio with me. Now, Bruce, tell me the blasts in Damascus and Homs.
Sure, Kunyang. Both these attacks were devastating. In Damascus, the capital, although there were more deaths, what happened there was reportedly a car bomb and 2 suicide bombers. At least 83 people were killed, around 180 others injured. And just hours before that, bombs exploded in a neighborhood in the central city of Homs, as you mentioned, killing around 60 people.
Any reasons? I mean, do we have any idea why these cities in particular were targeted?
Well, the area that was hit in Damascus, where all 3 bombs went off, is a Shia holy area. And on top of that, it's guarded by fighters of Lebanon's Hezbollah. Now, that group is a Shia militant group, so it wouldn't be surprising for Islamic State, which is a Sunni sect, to target that area, not to mention Hezbollah is fighting ISIS alongside the Syrian government. There were many witnesses to the attack as well.
A man detonated the bomb on his body. Another 5 to 7 minutes later, a second man detonated his body bomb there. I was right here looking at him.
The intense violence comes in the midst of a possible ceasefire agreement. Secretary of State John Kerry said just hours ago he's positive there will be progress in Syria, which has been at war for 5 years.
We are, in fact, making progress even as I stand here today. There is aid now getting through. The modalities for a cessation of hostilities are now being completed.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad said he's ready for a ceasefire as long as terrorists, as he called them, don't take advantage of the halt in fighting. Opposition leaders previously agreed to the possibility of a temporary truce if Syrian government allies stop the bloodshed, sieges are lifted, and aid is delivered. Rural protesters continue to block highways and paralyze the northern Indian state of Haryana. The rioting has lasted for several days and killed at least 16 people. Those protesting there, the rural Jat people, claim they're experiencing downward mobility and missing out on urban job opportunities.
The young generation of Jat community is in danger of losing out. We are making demands for the young generation. The government should immediately grant us reservation. We will protest till we get reservation.
Many Jats are farmers whose livelihoods have suffered as families divide farms among their children, while 2 years of drought have harmed their crops.
Bruce, traditionally the Jat people are not the ones to protest, but they are much less privileged class.
That's correct. You know, traditionally it was other castes under this system that grants lower caste government jobs and better opportunities in education systems. Now the Jats feel like they're missing out, largely possibly because of this drought. They want some upward mobility within the government system and education as well.
Well, a very tragic, very disturbing news there. Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks.
Well, time now to get a check on the weather conditions. Let's go right over to our Lee Ji-hyun at the Weather Center. Ji-hyun, the week kicked off with overcast skies, which means poor visibility tonight. Of course, today, like we mentioned on Friday, is Daeboreum, but many of us are having a hard time getting a glimpse of that first full moon of the new Lunar New Year.
That is right, Young. Heavy clouds have been lingering all day, but aside from checking out the full moon, there are lots of other fun traditions followed on Daeboreum.
So, give us a rundown of what these customs are.
Sure thing. Well, on Daeboreum Day, we have ogokbap, or 5-grain rice for breakfast with freshly seasoned herbs that we're about to see right here. And also, cracking open nuts with your teeth is believed to keep your pearly white strong for another year. And on Daeboreum night, people practice 달집 태우기, or the burning of wood sticks to drive out bad fortune and bring good luck. And I hope all of you had a wonderful Daeboreum today. Now let's move on to tomorrow's weather conditions. We're expecting a wintry weather in the first half of the week. Up to 5 centimeters of snow is expected in the upper parts of the country, including here in the capital till tomorrow morning, and 1 to 3 centimeters for the central parts of the country. And temperature-wise, it's going to be similar to today, so let's take a closer look. Here in the capital, we'll wake up to 0 degrees Celsius. 3 for Busan and Jeju will wake up to a low of 6 degrees Celsius. And as for the daily highs, it's going to actually get colder as the day goes on because of that strong winds. But here in Seoul, we'll top out at 4, 9 for Daegu, and Busan will top out at 12 degrees Celsius. Now by Wednesday, the low will drop to -7 degrees Celsius here in Seoul, but things will go back to the seasonal averages by Thursday afternoon. Now that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that is our broadcast on this Monday night. I'm Moon Gon-young. Thank you everyone for watching, and hope you have a wonderful Taeborim night, and we will see you right back here same time tomorrow on NewsCenter.